Welcome to the final installment of our series focusing on the threat of terrorist attacks on our nation's schools. Tonight, it is all about practical advice. If you've been watching all week, you probably have seen the guest on the program scare the living bat snot out of you, wondering, okay, Glenn, I get it. Now what do I do with the news? Your kids may be dead soon. News at 11. That kind of stuff is not helpful. Tonight, we're lucky enough to have Kenneth Trump. He is one of the nation's foremost experts on school safety and school security, here to back us up. He is also joined again with Brad Thor, author of The First Commandment and the former member of the Department of Homeland Security's Analytic Red Cell program. Brad, let me start with you. Tell me the 4 Ds.
Okay, Glenn, the 4 Ds were developed by Colonel Dave Grossman, and he's one of the premier law enforcement trainers in the country. And they are deter, detect, delay, and destroy. Deter. You want an armed presence at your school. Unarmed security guards are no good. They give a false sense of security to parents, teachers, and students. Even if your school can't afford a police officer to be on site all times, invite the police from your local law enforcement agencies to do their paperwork at your school. Come by for coffee. Even random police stopping by will help terrorists say, you know what, I don't want anything to do with the school, I'm going to move on. That's the deter. Now, the detect is parents, teachers, school authorities, they need to be watching for terrorists who are surveilling schools. We've talked about how they're like sharks, and they'll come in and gather their intelligence. These might not be guys that look like Muhammad Atta. These could be blonde-haired, blue-eyed people trying to figure out where the school is weak. Those are the first 2. And then the delay. If there is a terrorist attack at your children's school, there needs to be a plan in place that helps get those students to safety. This lock and drop and stay inside the classroom might not be the best thing, because that might just hold them to the terrorists come and round them up and take them into the gym like Beslan, like we saw there. And finally, destroy. This is one of the biggest lessons that was learned in the Israeli school massacre in Ma'alat and in Beslan. For every second we wait to send law enforcement in, children are going to die.
Ken, this is totally different than anything that we have ever dealt with before. I mean, it is my understanding that the typical thing with a hostage would be delay. Let's keep these guys on the phone. Let's not piss them off, etc. But these people have no intention of anything other than killing everybody inside.
Oh, absolutely. They're going in with the idea that they are not coming out, and neither is anybody who's already there. And we have to recognize it's a totally different situation, and it's a totally different situation that law enforcement and school officials really haven't prepared for tactically, but more important, mentally.
Okay, how do you know when Brad said a second ago that you need to detect, and they may just look like me or whatever, how do you detect them? I don't know what I'm doing. What am I looking for?
One thing that we stress, Glenn, with school officials in our training is that they know their school and what is normal better than anybody, even better than me as a security consultant coming from the outside. They know what's normal. They have to be able to recognize and, most of all, act on what's abnormal. And we don't train our teachers to do that. We have situations in schools where they've been user-friendly, they've been open for so long historically that people actually talk themselves out of going with their gut feeling. And the first thing, as we all know, is to go with your gut feeling. If you think something's wrong, act upon it. Do something. Pick up the phone, stop somebody, challenge somebody, or at least call for help.
I have to tell you, one of the best books I've ever read is The Gift of Fear. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But it talks about that dogs don't have this special sense. They're reacting on you, but you're dismissing it. You see something in your school, but most likely, if you do see something that doesn't look right, I mean, unless it's so obviously not right, you're like, well, I'll dismiss it. That can't be what I think it is.
And you don't want to do that, Glenn. You've got to trust your gut. Now, you need to work with your police department. And I like to say your police department, not the police department, because they are your partners in protecting the schools. And we've talked about this a little bit on camera, off camera, that the police departments, the sheriff departments, they're the ones that are eager to get these things implemented in the schools. Parents need to work on the schools. Law enforcement's ready to come on board and help, but the schools need to be convinced that parents want this and they want law enforcement brought on.
Ken, this is probably not the forum to ask this because I'm on national TV, but I've already done it on national radio, and I don't know if this is even right. I talked to my ex-wife, and one of my children is in public school, and I said, I'm going to call you, or if you see something, if something happens, and I don't care if it's in Kansas, if you see a school taken, or if I see one, I'm going to call you. I don't care if you're in the job, job interview. You say, excuse me, you go directly to the school, say, my child has a dentist appointment. and get them out of school. Right or wrong?
Well, I think it's actually a natural parental instinct. One of the things when we're working on school emergency plans is how do school officials plan on dealing with parents who come flocking to the school. We've seen it in school shootings, from Columbine to other incidents, and it's going to be a normal reaction. I think we have to recognize for school officials and for safety officials, sometimes the best place is for the kids to be secured in a building. It's going to be situational.
No, well, what I'm saying is, if I see it in another city.
Right. And we've talked about this. If you see it in another city, if everybody across America does this, it could create chaos and play into the terrorists' hands. Now, if we hear about a school siege scenario in, let's say, Long Beach, California, schools across the country should seriously consider locking their schools down at that point if it's a terrorist attack.
But guys, this